Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today, we're finally talking about Horizon Forbidden West. Oh, I've been rushing through this game like nobody's business. So, I got this on last Friday, and I've already ran through the main plot, despite having work and other stuff to do, and having to take a day or two off because I have to meet up with a friend of mine because I'm still working on a video game. So I have a lot of other stuff going on. I had to make some time, but I managed to rush through in about a week, which is short for me. I tend to mosey about, go on all the side quests, get everything unlocked before moving on to the next main quest. I'm a very completionist kind of guy usually, and I had to fight against every instinct I had to rush to the main quest as fast as possible. If you guys are interested, actually, I was streaming this. Nobody was watching, but I was streaming it on my YouTube channel. You can find a link in the description. And I'm going to be streaming Elden Ring on this Saturday evening, Sunday evening, and also on Tuesday, because I'm off for Mardi Gras, because I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where that's, a thing. I will be updating that information on my Twitter. You can follow me at the link in the description as well. So I would really appreciate it if you guys would, support that. If you don't want to, it's fine. If you want to watch the playthrough of Horizon Forbidden West, you can find that on the YouTube channel as well, except for the introduction section. I forgot to. There was a problem when recording it. I couldn't stream it back then, so I'm gonna post the video I recorded for it. So don't worry. That's going to get up there soon. I just got to go through and make a few cuts. So, Anyway, that's enough of me plugging what I've been doing lately. Time to get on to the review. So, for those of you who don't know, this is a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. The game is Horizon Forbidden West, and it follows the journey of Aloy, a huntress in a post-apocalyptic world. Future version of Earth, over 1,000 years after, from our current date. For those of you who have not played Horizon Zero Dawn, alright, look, I usually try and do a non-spoiler section. The problem is, the entire premise of this game kind of relies on plot twists from Horizon Zero Dawn and information that you need to understand from that game. So, I'm going to tell you I really like this game. I like both this game and its predecessor. I think this is basically just a direct improvement on a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn's mechanics. And then I'm going to go into the review now. So there are massive spoilers for Horizon Zero Dawn. The sequel is based around multiple things you learn about the end and middle of the game, and even a post-credit scene for that game. So there are massive spoilers here, alright? Okay, we're all good? Everybody wants to go experience Horizon Zero Dawn for themselves. It's a PS4 game. PS4s are pretty cheap these days. Go check it out. Alright? So, I'm assuming all of you know Horizon Zero Dawn. For those of you who don't and don't want to, go play it, here's a recap. You start out as a huntress in the far northern tribe called the Nora. They're very technological phobic, and they fear the ruins of the old ones, the humans who left only ruins, whose civilization was so completely destroyed that no one remembers them. And in addition to a surprisingly small amount of animals, the world is full of robots that, in the shape of various animals that seem to till the land and act. But around the time Aloy was born, the machines became deranged and began attacking humans, whom they had previously regarded with ambivalence. As a result of all this, and the fact that Aloy appeared in the sacred cave of the Nora without anyone around and seemingly out of nowhere, she's ostracized and made into an outcast. No one's allowed to speak to her. She goes on a proving thing, becomes one of the tribe, just as they're attacked because someone saw her at the festival who had a device she has, a focus. Her relic of the old ones lets her... Think about an AR display, an AR-VR display. Someone else with it saw her, and then a group of strange people attacked her. There's a civil war going on with the Karja, and Aloy begins to uncover the ruins of the old ones. Eventually, she learns that everything revolved around a project called Zero Dawn. And I'm just going to tell you what happened, because again, it's necessary as context. So, in Zero Dawn world, we had a climate crisis, and a business mogul eventually came and started a company based around technological cures for those crises. His name was Ted Faro. Screw Ted Faro. No. He was doing good work at first. He worked with Elizabeth Sobek, a scientist who specialized in these kind of environmental, large-scale constructions. Ted Faro got greedy after the, climate crisis was more or less dealt with for the most part. Decades later, he got into the military gain and started building drones for various governments. Elizabeth bailed, and Ted Faro lost control of a self-operating swarm of robots that could reproduce by devouring organic matter. I'm sure you don't need to know what happened after that. We had a Grey Goose scenario. For those of you who don't know, a Grey Goose scenario envisions a possible scientific apocalypse where robots capable of reproduction by devouring matter devour the entire world. They literally ate all organic life on the planet in a few months. Now, they realized this pretty quickly, and they realized the swarm was already too hard to beat. The quantum encryption meant that it would take literally decades for them to create the disarm codes, and they had months. They could generate them, it would just take time. Time they didn't have. So, Elizabeth Sobek proposed a solution. A horrific, horrible solution. We were all dead. That was it. We were dead. Every human on this planet, every living thing was already dead. But that didn't mean life couldn't bud anew. With the help of the greatest scientists on the planet and the backing of one of the most wealthy and the backing of the person who is probably the most wealthy person on Earth, Ted Faro, and responsible for this whole mess, who Elizabeth Sobek blackmailed into getting the funding for, telling him she was about to go into the meeting with the U.S. directors, and he could either go to jail or help support the project because he was a goddamn idiot who'd killed them all. Which is, very fair. So, they built Zero Dawn, and with it, they built Gaia. Gaia was essentially an artificial AI designed to have access to several sub-functions, each of which had purpose. One, to create codes and transmit them to disarm the robots decades after humanity's death. Then there were others to build machines, to purify the land and water, to build crops, to reproduce humans and animals and plant life. They were literally creating a seed from which all life on Earth could bud anew. But Ted Faro, Elizabeth Sobek had to sacrifice herself during the final completion of the machine when it sealed off. A few humans got lucky enough to go to a secret underground bunker called Elysium. Ted Faro holed himself up in his pyramid. Tacky, just so tacky. And Elizabeth Sobek went off to her home and died in a environmental suit. And her alphas, the people put in charge of each of the sub-functions, were killed by Ted Faro in an attempt to keep the future remnants of humanity ignorant to the horrible... because he felt guilty for what he had done. At least in Zero Dawn, he felt consumed by the guilt. He thought knowledge was a curse. So he decided that Apollo, the knowledge center of Gaia, had to be erased. He had to read all copies and murder the alphas so they could not reactivate it. So when the humans were born, years later, after Gaia finished, deactivating the robots, remaking the planet, she couldn't let them learn. She couldn't let them into a lot of the facilities. And once they got old enough and the food ran out, she had to release them into the wild. She had specific directives placed in there by Ted Faro, who used his Omega override that he had created into the system to prevent her from interfering. So basically, the world went on ignorant. Tribal societies formed, and that's how we got the world Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. That was the recap. It was long, but all of that was very, very important. Because it's all very important to the plot of Forbidden West. So, Gaia received a mysterious signal that turned her sub-functions into actual AIs. One of them, Hades, tried to destroy the world. Aloy beat it, and prevented it from reactivating the Pharaoh robots and destroying all life on Earth. But the mysterious signals still unknown. The other subfunctions booted out, and Gaia had to nuke herself, which meant the terraforming systems, which were supposed to be restoring the Earth, are now spiraling out of control. Crops are failing, disease and pestilence are spreading throughout them, superstorms and poisoned water supplies. The world is literally falling apart. In a few months, it'll reach catastrophic levels, and there'll be no going back. So, armed with this knowledge, Aloy has been searching for the last 6 months for any backup of Gaia, going to every Zero Dawn facility, but every time she keeps hitting a dead end. Eventually, though, she gets word that Silence, the guy who helped her defeat Hades, actually tricked her. The lance he gave her transmitted Hades' AI to a contained capsule that Silence was going to use to interrogate for information. He was a little bitter about Hades betraying him. So, for those of you who don't know, Hades was actually the part of Gaia that was supposed to... Basically, Gaia was programmed to love life, so she couldn't bring herself to destroy it even if she messed up. So if the biosphere was that Gaia made the first few times was when they were unable to sustain life, Hades would take over and wipe it clean and basically say, do a little better next time, Gaia, or we're going to have to do this again. So all that happened. Aloy's been looking for it, researching Far Zenith, the space company that had a few billionaires jet off to space. And she's exhausted. She's been working 6 months nearly without work. The second she defeated Hades, she jetted off, not even staying for the party, just vanishing. A lot of her friends are like, what the hell, Aloy? And she's like, guys, I can't explain it to you. Like, she literally can't explain all this. It took me 9 minutes, and I was giving the heavily condensed version that assumed you knew a lot of sci-fi concepts and had pop culture references that understood our world. Take hours, and, well, she had to use every second she had. Anyway, one of her tribesmen, Varl, comes and rescues her and helps her out. And she meets up with some other friends from the old days, like Aaron and Petra, because she determines that Silence screwed off to the Forbidden West for some unknown purpose. And so she has to go down there and deal with Hades once and for all, and possibly find a Gaia backup, because he's implied that he might have found a solution to her problem. And so that's the game. We gotta find Gaia, restore her sub-functions, and get the world back on track. Soon after, we meet some mysterious people who seem to have access to technology they really shouldn't. There's a new civil war brewing, and Silence is involved, and all of this is surrounding the world literally falling apart at the seams. It is amazing. I love it. There's robot dinosaurs everywhere, crop failures, superstorms. This really does feel like some post-apocalyptic world. It's about to go through a second apocalypse. It's amazing. I just can't tell you. Some of the sights in this game are so cool. Like the holographic projectors of Las Vegas, now even with the city ruined, come to life again and show these brilliant displays. You get to travel deep beneath the seas into the flooded city of San Francisco. It's all just so beautiful, and the PS5 really does it justice. I was lucky to get PS5 for this game, because, oh my god, it looks and plays amazing. The loading times are really low, and I would say the game is pretty solid for the most part. Don't get me wrong, there are a few bugs. I found one or two floating trees. I had a moment where an enemy ragdolled and started spinning in the air, in a ball, compressed itself into a ball and started spinning in the air. And there were a few times where the screen just went black after I completed an arena or a challenge or something like that, and I had to reload from previous save. But I didn't lose any progress, and the loading times, aside from that, are basically instantaneous. So I'd say, with a patch or two, this will be a really solid game. And for a day one launch, this is actually really stable. I'll give it that. All in all, I love this. This is one of my favorite games from Sony, PlayStation-wise exclusives. This is some of the best stuff you can get. I wish I had time to do everything you can in the game. Of course, we got to get to the core concept. So, for those of you who haven't played the previous one, this game is an open world survival crafting game. Yes, I know, but it has a unique ISP, unique selling point. Okay, this one has robot dinosaurs, and you have to fight them with a freaking bow and arrow and slingshots. So, you have to be tricky about this. Aloy's focus lets her see the weak points of machines and analyze them. You sneak through the tall grass, you analyze them, you pick out the ones that are in the area, you look at a herd, you take a target to take down first. Then you'll take down a small one off to the side so you can thin the herd a bit before you go for the main target. Then you have to find weak points in order to bust them up, because your arrows aren't going to do much damage against their normal armored areas. You got to find their weak points, aim carefully, and hit them hard. Use elemental damage to burn away their armor with acid, or use explosives to blast off chunks to reveal vulnerable sections. Maybe you'll use fire damage to detonate things. Ice damage to make their armor brittle and easier to knock off. Lightning damage to shock them and go in for a critical stab with your spear. It has this very methodical hunting through the grass thing that I really enjoy. Now, granted, during the main quest line, I often was just like brute forcing my way through things, because I really needed to finish this game for the review. And it really does feel like you're supposed to go through all the side quests so you have access to a lot of the elemental arrows and stuff like that. Like, for example, I didn't have any ice arrows, so whenever I needed ice, I had to pull up my, like, common ice sling and start blasting them. It took, like, 10 balls to do it. And normally you would have, like, better equipment, but I spent most of the game with, like, uncommon equipment and, like, maybe 1 or 2 epic or legendary items. By the very end, I had, like, 4 epic items, but everything else was basically uncommon. So, as you can imagine, fighting most of the enemies in the game with mostly beginner weapons was harder. I only got a few bows that were very, very useful. That plasma thing, like seriously, if I hadn't gotten that legendary plasma bow from the arena, I would not have made it through the end. I really needed those plasma arrows. They were very useful. So yeah, I really like this game. I think they improved, adding a lot more mobility. The fact that you can add 6 weapons to the weapon wheel really makes it a lot easier to switch between weapons, because I felt like 4 was too few. You always had to, like, I always found that there were always, like, a fight that I had to switch out for, you know? But I feel like if I had gotten a few more weapons, I probably could have had 6 that I could have just used as my main weapons, swapping out some when I wanted some more versatility in one direction compared to another, but able to have everything I need in one place. Which is really nice because you don't have to keep pausing the game to switch out your weapon wheel. I also really like some of the new skill tree additions. Melee weapons are actually freaking useful now and not completely useless. They made this quick attack a little quicker, and they gave some actual oomph to the heavy attack, combined with some actual skill trees and combos and stuff that make it, make you want to use your heavy weapon. Human enemies are about the same. They're slightly improved. All the new robots are great. I really like they're going for the robo mammoths with the giant arsenal on them. You got the solar powered pterodactyls, which are really cool. And it's just nice to see them all. There are also all the old machines, so you don't see as many of them in this new region. There is like an old island in San Francisco where it's like the greatest hits of the original game, which I thought was kind of cool. You see a Thunderjaw, you got the Stormbirds. Those things were annoying in the last game. But the Stormbird actually glitched out for me. It was like the only real gameplay glitch I'd actually encountered too. It just didn't notice me, so I just kept firing arrows at it, and it just sat there, and I was like, okay, I guess you're gonna be nice for me. Cool. So, yeah. I really like this game. I think it is a solid 9.5 out of 10. 9 out of 10. It's not like groundbreaking or anything. The robot dinosaur combat, though, is well done, and I think it deserves this. The main thing holding it back is, again, it's a little buggy right now. I think that'll get fixed. And, like, it's released on PS4 now, so there's a lot on PS4, but I think as a PS5 exclusive, there need to be more stuff on the PS5 in order to justify this, but, you know what? No. You know what? I'm gonna give this a 10. I think this is probably the best I could imagine this game being. For the most part, yes. And if I had the time to play this like I wanted to play this, I would have really enjoyed it a lot more. Being able to actually slowly build up and get weapons. I might just start over my playthrough, because I am going to eventually 100% this game. I 100% the last one. I even did the ultra hardcore New Game Plus playthrough before I did my review of Horizon Zero Dawn. So, you know what? I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. If you like the previous game, if you like survival crafting, if you think the idea of fighting robot dinosaurs with a frickin' bow and arrow is cool, this is the game for you. Check it out. And if you don't have a PS5, guess what? They released it on PS4, so you can do that too. So yeah. I'm trying to think if I want to do a spoiler section for this. So, I'm going to do some spoiler stuff. I don't think you should unless you have played the game. But hey, if you want to do this, you just want to hear more about it, that's cool. Listen up. So, spoiler section. Everyone get out of here who doesn't want spoilers. Alright, so the game goes mostly how you think. You team up with Erend and Varl, who help Aloy find the last of Gaia's backups. It's an old testing facility they were using to test the Hades protocol, and they were using cores of Gaia as the base for it. So if we find one of those, we could use it to restore Gaia, and then she could start taking over the terraforming process again. However, once you get in there, there's a surprise. See, you find the Gaia backup, and you're inside a sealed door with just, that's locked with Elizabeth Sobek's DNA, because she was the head of Zero Dawn, so most of the doors can really only be opened with her DNA, because she had it hard-coded on there. Her, one of the alphas, but no one else is cloned an alpha to our knowledge. As a result of this, well, the door opens. Yeah. Silence contacts Aloy and says, don't be afraid of them. But you should definitely be afraid of them. Because out of the shadows steps another clone of Elizabeth Sobek. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Aloy is a clone of Elizabeth Sobek, who Gaia created to help restore the system. That's why she's doing all this, why she feels so compelled. Her name is Beta, and she is currently under the control of these people from Far Zenith. Now, Far Zenith in the first game was a spaceship that was supposed to try and colonize another planet. They had been working on this for a while, but once the apocalypse came, they basically gathered the rich and powerful, loaded them onto a ship, and set off to Far Zenith, with the intent that they could live out their lives on the spaceship, possibly with life extension technology, and then they could colonize that planet to restore Earth. It was one of the many projects that was going on simultaneously with Zero Dawn, even though Zero Dawn got most of the funding. They were mostly privatized, whereas Zero Dawn got a lot of government support. As you can imagine, it's Far Zenith. And it's not the Descendants. That's actually the interesting part. See, through mechanical and biological manipulation, they discovered immortality. They're basically cyborgs at this point, with various gene editing to keep them young and alive forever. They survived on Far Zenith, but disaster forced them to flee to this world again. So they're after Gaia, to take control of the terraforming systems, wipe the world a blank slate clean, and then just give it a flat blank slate, and then terraform it. At least, that's what we think at first. The real answer is a twist near the end, so I'm not going to get into that quite yet. But, yeah. They have a clone of Elizabeth Sobek called Beta, who was basically imprisoned in a VR pod for her whole life and forced to learn what she needed in order to read the terraforming system. Although, of course, she was told a lie that, they were going to fix the terraforming system because it had gone out of control when they were fleeing from Far Zenith, so they needed her in order to help fix it so it would be a livable home. She, once she saw them murdering all the local inhabitants, she quickly changed her tune. But, she's basically their prisoner, so she has to open the doors for them or die. Of course, when they find Aloy, they're very shocked. But one of them figures Gaia must have created a clone like they did in order to fix the terraforming system. So, they obviously steal the other backup of Gaia that was there. There were two available. Aloy got one and Far Zenith got the other. Of course, Aloy barely manages to escape, but is unable to harm them due to their force fields, which we later learned Silence is working on disabling because he knew they were coming. That's what he learned from Hades. That and something else. Dun dun dun. But that's the surprise at the end. Anyway, Aloy joins up with her team and starts going out to look for the other subordinate functions to help restore Gaia. She finds the first one, Minerva, in an old base that she takes as her new headquarters of sorts. She then goes after three more of the subordinate functions that Gaia can see, aside from Hephaestus, who has spread himself amongst the control networks and Gaia isn't powerful enough to deal with. Hephaestus is the one that creates the machine. So they have us go after, let's see here, it was Ether, Poseidon, and Demeter. Demeter works on plants, Poseidon works in the water, Ether works in the sky. In the process, we get wrapped up in the clan wars of the Tanuk, who are dealing with a rebel who's being backed by Silence, who's given her control over machines. You also meet an Oseram salvager who is looking for these underwater city of lights deep in the desert, which we later learn is where Demeter is. And once we finish that, it gives us this beautiful, so that section probably has some of those beautiful and breathtaking visual scenes, actually. The underwater Las Vegas and then the light sky with the dragon. That was all amazing. I loved it. And then we have Demeter, who is Let's see, where was Demeter again? I'm trying to think. Oh, right. She was at the Pharaoh agricultural facility that was working on other solutions to the Pharaoh plague, the Great Goose scenario from earlier. And we meet this other focus user called Alva. Apparently her people discovered the focuses and used them to uncover a lot of secrets of the old ones. And due to their dying crops, which is causing massive famines, her people have come in search of the agricultural techniques that the old ones used to use. They found reason to believe there were advanced knowledge in this place. Each of these people, and amongst the Tanakh, you also find an old warrior who loses an arm, and you help give him a robot arm if you finish the side quest. I didn't have time to finish the side quest. Sorry. But anyway, they all join you and become members of your group. You even get to see the leader of the Quinn, who ends up dying, but most of the Quinn aren't that broken up about it. And he thought he was a reincarnation of Ted Pharaoh, and he thought Ted Pharaoh was the savior of the world. Okay, first thing you need to know, Ted Pharaoh is an asshole. Like, seriously. He built a pleasure pyramid to ride out the apocalypse he created after murdering the people who would teach the future generations of humanity, everything we need to know. And then he proceeds to slowly murder everyone in there because they discover what he did. And then the last two people, the doctor who he was forcing to try and make him immortal, but was giving him mutations that turned him into a living flesh blob, from what we understand. And his daughter committed suicide at the horror of everything that had happened. And then he said the gall to complain about how they left him to be alone and how they should feel horrible for doing that. He gave them everything. Like, what a dick. And this guy wanted to be like him. And when he heard all that, he was like, ah, yes, Ted Pharaoh. I was such a great man. And then he sees the flesh blob. And he's like, burn it. No one must know. Kill them. No witnesses. And I'm like, wow. So he didn't even believe his own delusions, really. Sad. Just pathetic. Him and Ted Pharaoh would have been great buddies, I'm sure. Hope they murdered each other in another timeline. Anywho. Basically, yeah. Aloy tried so hard to do it herself and almost dies multiple times in the first part, trying to go at it alone. And it's only after teaming up with everyone else and, having other people around to help you that she's able to finally defeat the Far Zenith people. She gets help from another Far Zenith character called Tilda, who was helping out Beta before soon cutting off contact. And she discovered Aloy from the broken focus she had left. Silence had been tracking her. She manages to break off with the other Far Zeniths and seems to be on her side, but Aloy's had enough backstabbing from Silence to know not to trust people unwillingly. So she has one of her new friends, Alva, when they're breaking into the facility and she's, hacking into their systems to build a machine army to fight their drones. Alva goes through their files, and she discovers that Tilda has not exactly been telling the complete truth with them, along with Beta. Well, guess what? She hasn't. In fact, all of them have been lying to us. Far Zenith's colony wasn't destroyed by geothermal activity. See, originally their immortality was supposed to be achieved by digitizing their minds. But after they digitized it, they didn't really give it full sentience or anything like that, or animate them. The project was eventually just abandoned. But they kept the data for it lying around. And at some point it gained frickin' sentience. It was literally just a sentient AI, an amalgamation of every single one of the minds of Far Zenith's greatest intellects, all combined together into this gelatinous sloop of hatred and rage. Because it was locked in a tiny box for most of its life. And it wiped out their colony in a few hours. Far Zenith's ships managed to escape, but after it was finished wrecking their planet, it followed. And it's only a few years out. It sent the destruction signal once it started destroying their home in order to prevent them from fleeing to Earth. It had hoped Hades would have rendered Earth uninhabitable so that Far Zenith wouldn't have been able to do anything. And then, Gaia managed to stop him. Gaia and Aloy. So Far Zenith managed to discover that. They were surprised to see Aloy. And Tilda was kind of in love with Elizabeth Sobek. She was a friend of hers, and she was super in love with her. They don't outright say that she wanted to bang her, but this game was sold in China, so read between the lines. Like, she even says, "I loved her in ways you could not understand." And I was like, "Oh, okay, so you really want to hit that? Got it. That's cool. I see some representation, even if it is again in villains. I wish it would have been, someone else, but hey, we'll take representation where we can get it." And in a way, Tilda's not entirely against Elizabeth Sobek's vision, actually. See, she always regretted leaving Elizabeth to die on the planet and not being able to convince her to come with her. Now, when Beta was first born, she thought Elizabeth Sobek was reborn, basically. She had hoped she could see Elizabeth in Beta, but she eventually broke contact with her. And it's a little unclear, because she mentions offhandedly during the final battle that Aloy was more than just a broken copy, a broken shell of a copy. And she was everything Elizabeth was and more. So it's unclear, but she also mentioned that the other Farzian members were getting close to discovering that she had been communicating in this virtual house with Beta. So it's unclear if she really disliked Beta, or if she was genuinely worried for her safety and actually, began to fixate on Aloy once she met her. But basically, the goal is she was going to use a calculated flight plan that would prevent the AI from tracking them. It would basically send them to one of any of a dozen random potential stars and a suitable planet in there. They had picked out a few dozen targets and randomly shot into space in such a way that the AI wouldn't be able to track them. But they had to stop here to get Gaia for the terraforming systems, because they weren't able to bring all their other systems when they landed. They were hoping to terraform any planet, not just the few that might have been able to be terraformed with the right equipment and time. However, Aloy is obviously not like this, but Tilda actually makes a pretty convincing argument. This was Elizabeth Sobek's plan. Humanity is about to face extinction, so we'll let it die. We will take a seed, and from that seed, we will bring a new life of humanity. And it makes sense, right? Like, this is her plan. I mean, yeah, it's all moving it from Earth to another world, but it's technically her plan. Heck, you even still have the AI destruction timeline. Like, this is literally the situation Elizabeth was in. But Aloy refuses. There's still time. There's still a solution. There's other options. And she watched, and throughout this thing, we saw remnants of the other facilities. The other people that were sacrificing their lives to buy time. The Pharaoh plant facility that was working on a type of special biomass that the machines could not devour. These special mechanical flowers to contain them in a cage. And if only they'd been quicker, they might have been able to contain them. But the technology was developed too late. The technology was finished too late for them. Like, there were all these people working on other solutions. Zero Dawn was simply the best option they had, and they had not enough time. But they have time now. They have months. Time to get Hephaestus back into Gaia. Time to work on a solution. But Tilda argues that it's hopeless. That this thing is an AI amalgamation of the greatest minds on the planet that destroyed their civilization in hours. This primitive world wouldn't do anything. It's best to take the device and go. And she wants Aloy to come with her. Now, this wouldn't be entirely as bad. Maybe they'd let her have a copy of Gaia or something, if it weren't for the whole she's not taking no for an answer this time. Because see, her biggest regret was leaving her lover to die on this planet. Maybe not her lover. Like, we're not sure how one-sided it was. Elizabeth Sobek never really mentioned Tilda. So it's more likely it was a crush that was never requited. But she regrets it. She regrets leaving a friend of hers to die, you know? And, yeah. She decided, no, I will not have this regret. And it's kind of funny, too, because there's an interesting parallel after the final battle. So Tilda ends up dying in the final battle, and Silence decides, well, you can come with me, you know. Because he's off. He thinks we're all screwed. He's decided, I'm going to get on the plane. I'm going to get on the ship. I'm going to use their technology, make myself immortal. I will study the stars and the cosmos, learn all that there is to know. That is all I've ever wanted in life. However, when he gets there, you see this moment. Aloy wishes him the best, that she's going to fight against the inevitable. He tells her it's pointless, that people like them should survive for another day. He's making the same argument Farzina and possibly even Tilda made. See, the way I choose to envision the scene, it's probably a similar argument. So it's mentioned that Elizabeth never mentioned her, and I think I know why. She likely approached her and offered her a place. Elizabeth likely told her, help us work on Zero Dawn, help make a better future. And she chose to leave with Farzina. I imagine Elizabeth would have been probably betrayed by that, but she let her friend go. And her friend regretted it for 1,000 years that she left her friend to die, that she turned her back on the world. And you know what? Has the same choice again, but after having betrayed the other Zeniths and killed them all in order to eliminate the more psychotic of their members, because again, these were all immortal, all-powerful billionaires that basically got the ability to become gods. Like, seriously, they have invincible force fields, fly around, have basically telepathy and control swarms of nanobots. They essentially act like Superman. It's ridiculous. But, so, yeah, a lot of them are assholes, especially the survivors and their leader. Because remember, these are the most desperate of them, the ones who were perfectly willing to abandon ship the second an AI started wrecking their planet, and who were, ruthless enough to get room on that ship. So, most of them aren't great. Tilda has finally, though, envisioned a scenario where she can bring Elizabeth with her. In this scenario, Zero Dawn isn't a facility on Earth. It's up in space. The two of them can go. She can make Aloy immortal. She can basically raise her as a daughter, almost. Like, there's a lot of mixed up, like, feelings there. Some of them a little messed up. And it's very clear she's gone a little insane. Like, okay, not a little, a lot. She's been devoured by grief, and she is finally, after years of spending, like, she describes the VR worlds they spent their lives in. It's like, I just retreated further into myself all these years. And she saw her life, and she must have been like, oh my god, this is my chance to make everything right, and I will do anything necessary. So yeah, I actually really like her as a villain, even as a twist villain, because you knew there was something up with her, but you didn't know quite what it was. She was also way too powerful to survive. Like, it was obvious she was going to die, because there's no way we could have an ally that powerful. Gaia is one thing. Gaia has limitations as an AI. She can't physically be there. But, like, once Tilda was there, like, every other game would just start with Tilda walking through every obstacle, blasting her way into the cauldron, telling Aloy, alright, you can come in now, plug in, hack, alright, we fixed this one. Like, there's no game at that point, you know, if you have an ally that powerful. So yeah, she had to die. Silence uses the force field tech to take out the force fields. They unleash Hephaestus from Gaia, freeing him even after all the work they went to catch him. So there are still going to be rogue machines next game. So we're getting Horizon 3 to deal with the AI amalgamation. It's going to be fun. Hephaestus is loose. The other subordinate functions have all been contained, including the lost ones. Even Apollo, actually. And at the last minute, Silence goes up to take his ride on the spaceship. And he looks out, and you see this dawning realization, because Silence's big thing is, I wish to learn from the past so the mistakes that we made will never be made again. He actually hates Ted Faro a lot for what he did. He robbed them of the ability to learn from the mistakes of the past. And there's this moment where he looks out at Aloy and the group she's gathered, and she's regularly insulted the rest of them, but he thinks of Aloy as kind of a peer in a lot of ways. Like, he insults her and brags, but he doesn't do that to anyone else. He's always dismissive with anyone else. But with Aloy, he almost feels the need to be superior. Like, they have this dynamic where after Aloy comes back to the spear 6 months later and discovers his trick, Silence contacts her and is like, oh, about time you realized, Aloy. You really are slow in the uptake. He ignored everyone else. He ghosted on the rest of the world. Even the people who knew about him. Heck, even his own tribe. He considers them all inferior. In the first game, he genuinely sees Aloy as both a tool, but also almost a peer, you know? She's had a focus since she was a child. She understands more of the old world than most people could ever hope to. And there's this weird moment where Hilda's life is almost playing out again. One of them, the, scientifically minded, but cold, is about to go on a spaceship to secure their own survival, possibly at the cost of their morality. And one of them, convinced that there is a way to preserve life, even on this world, no matter the circumstances, is willing to stay behind and possibly even die. And the question is, does Silence think he can live with the regret? I think he genuinely is, in his own very messed up way, kind of learned to care about Aloy. Like, almost not like as like a lover, I don't think. I don't think they're going in that direction. Silence is kind of a dick. But I do think in sort of a respected peer sort of way, And I really like that they went that angle, like having it mirror so perfectly. It reminds me of the Fallout catchphrase, the war never changes. And in Fallout, it's supposed to represent how humans are always supposed to be violent and cruel no matter the circumstances. And it reminded me of this because in this new world, we see people making the same mistakes. The CEO, the leader of the Quinn, styled himself like Ted Faro. And near the end, yeah, he was acting just like Ted Faro. Like, it was uncanny. I almost thought he was like a clone or something at one point. But no, he couldn't unlock the genetic door, so he wasn't one. And it's just, all these people were robbed of the ability to learn from the past. They don't know what happened. And so they make the same mistakes over and over again. And Silence sees himself as better. And now he sees a parallel. A moment where his choices directly mirror choices that he just saw the end results of. And the person who made the choice he's about to make is currently lying dead on the floor a few meters away. And I like that he changes. I'm not even sure it's because he likes Aloy. It's because he sees potential regret. Plus, the rocket's going to be there. It's not like that's going to disappear. If the situation does get so bad, they can just jump ship. That's what's actually really interesting, is because his choice makes sense intellectually as well as emotionally. It makes sense to try and preserve Earth if at all possible. Letting an entire world die to an AI, if we can stop it, there's a chance this thing might eventually come after him too, because it might have a beef with all of humanity at this point because AI overlord. Plus, it's possible, since it mostly just went far Zenith dead, now that they're all dead, it might just, let them be. Probably not, because it's gotta be a major villain, and it did try and wipe the planet out, but you never know. All in all, I really like the story. I think there's a lot more to it. My favorite character was Alva. She's like the scientist or kind of like a priest, sort of, because they worship the old ones and all have focuses. So it's sort of like a mixture of a priest / researcher for the Quinn. She's a lot of fun. I just like her. She's perky and happy. Always like cheering and so excited at the possibilities of what they could discover. I remember this one moment where they're trying to get out of the research lab and she finds the terminal and they're like, oh my gosh, we finally locked this data. Look at all of this. I could spend decades going through all of it. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that feeling. I just like her. She's a lot of fun, and it's nice having someone who understands almost as much about the old world as Aloy does. Like, there's this moment when they Quinn guards, because the Quinn attack all the barbarians on site. They have these real Spanish conquistador vibes for me. And they want to kill Aloy for defending herself, but Alva acts very quickly and is like, don't you see? This is Elizabeth Sobek, one of the founders, the great ancestors. And they're like, oh my god, she does look like Elizabeth Sobek. Like, wait. You know about Elizabeth Sobek? Just keep going. I'm going to convince them you need to go on some important mission, and they'll let you go. If you keep asking questions, they're not going to let you leave. Yes, this is one of the great ancestors who saved all of life. And it's just like this moment of, oh my god, she actually knows what the hell is going on. Because for the most part, most people are so confused by old world stuff. But Alva seems to have an actual working understanding of it. So it's interesting. Doesn't have quite as much understanding of Silence or Aloy and still sees a lot of it through their pseudo-religion of the Quinn. But she does understand a lot. Which is really interesting. So yeah. All in all, as you can tell, I really liked this entire game. There's so much to do. I haven't even finished all the stuff in there. There's so many quests and side activities, and I'm going to enjoy this once I finish with Elden Ring. So, that's the review. This went long. Wow, 45 minutes. I will be posting the video version of this, hopefully for Friday or Saturday, hopefully Friday evening or Saturday morning, depending on how things shake out. It will be going up. I'll have lots of footage for that. Check out the video for it. I'm going to have a decent amount of actual gameplay footage, so if you want to watch me die a lot, because I was running through the game and often didn't have healing items. Yay! Oh, yeah, that hurts. Anyway, I will be getting Elden Ring tomorrow. I'm going to go pick up my copy after work. And in addition to that, I will be reviewing either Disenchanted or a movie called The Cursed. I'm still flip-flopping on which one. On Monday, I will be reviewing Elden Ring on Friday, because there's no way I'm finishing it just this weekend. All right. Everybody good? See you guys next time. Please check me out on stream if you have a chance. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.